G'day guys and welcome back today to another video on the Drewzy channel. 9 things we learned from round 14. Here we go. Don't know what I'm doing with my hands. I'm excited to be back on the channel after 3.5 weeks of traveling through Hawaii and Alaska. I am back producing content, boys and girls, and we are so close to 10k subscribers. We're just over 100 away. So if you guys want to follow along for footy content for the rest of the season, please make sure you subscribe and leave a like on the video to help support the channel. No more excuses for lapses in content. No more travel plans. Just pure Drewzy footy content coming at ya for the rest of the season. Let's get into the 9 things that we learned from round 14. Number 1. Brisbane aren't done yet. Going away, it's quite funny. You come back and all these different teams are in form, and Brisbane are one of the most informed teams in the competition. They've won 4 out of their last 5. McCluggage and Neil are back to their best, getting real busy, and Joe Danaher had a massive game on Friday night against the Saints. Their run home is pretty easy for the Lions as well, and things get weird after the bye. Teams go on massive runs, like last year. Carlton, GWS had massive finishes to the season, which sent them both into prelims. That could be Brisbane again. We know the quality that they have. They're only in a grand final, last September. So don't put a line through the Lions yet. They're absolutely flying and their stars are doing what they do. Number 2, Bont tears up Freo again. Every time we play the Bulldogs, the Bont just does an absolute number on us. The man was sick all week. He didn't train. He just showed up like a true Michael Jordan flu game and dominated, kicking I think 3 goals, had about 30 plus touches. But aside from the accumulation of the stats that he had, it was just the impact of every time he touched the ball, being at the game and just seeing what he does in the flesh. He hardly put a foot wrong all day. He was setting up his teammates. He was finding himself in space. When he was in tight, he was disposing of it cleanly. Just a true 3-vote GOAT performance from Marcus Bontempelli against the Dockers. I went to the game and vlogged it. That video is on the channel already. So if you want to see my in-depth thoughts as it happened, there is a video on that as well. Number 3, Freo had a week off after the bye. Again, we always struggle after the bye, the Dockers. And last year, it was a similar story. We'd beaten Sydney, we'd beaten Melbourne, and then we stunk up the second half of the year. I have faith that we've matured over the past 12 months, and I hope that we don't let this happen again, because pre-bye we were playing such great footy. 90-point win against Melbourne. We drew against the Pies, who are in red-hot form at the moment. We can't let the good footy that we've played in the first half of the year slip. We could have finished this round in the top 4, but instead, I think we currently sit 7th with the Bulldogs on our tail. It was a massive 8-point game, and we came off losers. But the Dogs are good. The Dogs are very good. So let's give them credit, and let's hope that the Dockers bounce back next week. Number 4, Dusty is the GOAT. Dustin Martin could walk away from football tomorrow and not have left a single stone unturned. This man's done it all multiple times. He's won 3 flags, 3 Norm Smiths. He has the highest Paul Brownlow in the history, I think, tied with Ollie Wines. Multiple-time All-Australian, probably the best Tiger to ever do it. We think of the GOATs of the generation just gone, your Dangerfield, your Fifes, your Gary Abletts, but in my time of watching football, I remember prime Dusty in that 2017 to 2020 era, and every time he got the ball, he was just unstoppable. He'd always pull off something miraculous, and he did that against the Hawks. First goal of the game, going bang from 50, 92,000 people at the MCG. The earth must have shook in that spot. I wasn't at the G. I wish I was, but what a moment that was for Dusty. The Tigers are really struggling, but at least they got to see another moment of magic from the greatest player of this era. Aside from the skill and just the general icon that Dusty is, he's just such a good guy from all accounts. He's humble, selfless. He just goes about his business, does what he needs to do for the club, and he's not arrogant. He's not cocky. Any of these things, which he has every right to be as one of the best athletes to ever do what he does. Brilliant athlete, great person, 300 games of the best from Dusty. Number 5. The Hawks are flying. So before I went, the Hawks could hardly get a win. They just lost to Port Adelaide in that nail-biting loss. I did a tier maker with Caden ranking AFL midfields. This is when Will Day wasn't in the side, and me and Caden decided to put them in poor. Hawthorn and Will Day commented on that TikTok, basically calling me an idiot. And post-holiday, the Hawks are now flying. They've won 6 of their last 7. They're probably the most informed side in the comp, right up there with Sydney and Brisbane. When Hawthorn are playing fast footy in their front half, you really get to see the flair and just the star power that is in this side. Connor McDonald, I'm a massive fan of. Dylan Moore Jai Newcombe kicked a really nice goal. Nick Watson, he's in all the right places, just needs to work on his execution. And Chol's getting on the end of goals. Kazitsky back into the side. They're winning the ball in the contest now as well. So that poor midfield is now getting pretty solid. Sam Mitchell has the Hawks playing the way that he knows the Hawks need to get them back into that finals mix. I thought there was pretty high hopes for the Hawks to start the season, and they started pretty slow, but now we're seeing the footy that we expected earlier on. So let's see if they can make a finals push. I'd be pretty surprised if a young side like the Hawks could play finals, but let's see how they go. Number 6. Joel Amartey is your favourite forward's favourite forward. Joel Amartey kicking 9 snags is the biggest tally of the season so far. I know we're sort of off Broadway being up in Sydney, and there's a lot of stars in that side. You know, you got Heaney, Golden, Warner. You've just had Buddy, Papley. You got all these guys that just light it up. But Joel Amartey slides under the radar. However, every time I watch the Swans, he does so many good things. Not only is he such an athlete, he takes marks, big marks in contests, at high heights. He just works up and down the ground tirelessly all day. He's constantly an aerial threat. And against a struggling Adelaide Crows side, he made him pay Saturday night, primetime footy, and showed what he is capable of. It won't happen, but I think Joel Amartey should be in the running for the All-Australian squad. Maybe not the final team, but he doesn't do anything wrong. He's your prototype key forward. Great athlete. Put some respect on this man's name. He's been doing it for a while now. And on Saturday night, he announced himself to the league as a genuine star. Number 7. Daicos doesn't make a wrong decision. It's so easy to hop on here every week and talk about Nick Daicos because every week, the stuff that he does just becomes more unbelievable. In that last quarter, every time the ball went near him, he just did not do anything wrong. There was a play where the ball's coming out of Collingwood's defensive 50 and he has McDonald right tight on his back, basically holding him. All he can do is get a foot to it, sort of bicycle kick style, bounces off McDonald's head, and it gets going in the way of the Pies. Hoskin Elliott sells the candy, ball goes over the back, and Nick Daicos is there to receive the ball to kick it inside 50. 5 seconds ago, he was being held by Luke McDonald and did a bicycle kick. Like, he just pops up everywhere. He's tireless running. He's a pretty boy, but he loves doing the ugly stuff. He loves the contested footy. He's silky with his skills. He genuinely can do every single thing on the football field. I know it gets a bit tiring talking about the same player over and over, but this guy could genuinely be the GOAT. I know we speak about Dustin Martin being the GOAT. We've just spoken about that. But for a guy that is such an accumulator of the footy, he's so damaging, constantly makes the right decisions, silky, tough, doesn't put a foot wrong. This guy is just a pleasure to watch every week. Number 8. AFL umpires are scared to make big decisions late in games. North Melbourne played 3/4 of their probably best footy today. It was so great to see George Wardlaw having an outstanding game, Sheasel getting more midfield minutes, and LDU leading these young guys. You can't blame the umpires for losing this game for North Melbourne because they couldn't close it out, but there were so many calls in that game that went wrong and that the umpires need to be held accountable for. There's been a lot of controversy around the goal review system, the ARC this year, and we've started to see the ball go back to the centre for the review to happen, and then if it's behind or if it's touched or whatever, it goes back. In the second quarter, Jack Crisp's goal is clearly touched. You can see the ball is touched, the finger flicks back, and it goes through for a goal. You think it's going to get reviewed and go back to be a kick-in, but it's just not. Why is that not spoken about? That is a massive call, and in the end, it was the margin that won Collingwood the game. I know the umpires love Nick Daicos, so do I. But in the fourth quarter, he takes the game on, he gets tackled, tries to get rid of it, and just fumbles it, holding the ball every day of the week. The North Melbourne players stopped because it was night and day holding the ball, but the umpires were too scared to call it. And extremely late in the game, the ball socket off the deck, and North Melbourne player marks the ball, is paid the mark, and 2 Collingwood players go over the mark to tackle him. That is 50 metres. Put that whistle in your mouth and make that call in that big moment. You're too scared to do it because you've got 40,000 Collingwood fans screaming down your neck, but it doesn't matter. Are you a man or a mouse? Make that call because it's your job. If that happens in any other moment of the game where the tension isn't so high, that's called 50. So as a professional umpire at the top level, you have to have the bottle to make that call. Because at that time, the game wasn't in your control. You let the pressure of the crowd and the biggest club in football in Collingwood get the better of you. In the end, Collingwood win by a point. But just them few instances there would have changed the outcome of the game, I believe. If it was the other way around and a North Melbourne player got done holding the ball in their defensive 50 and a North Melbourne player ran over the mark and it wasn't paid 50, the whole footy world would be going crazy. This would be discussed all week. It would be an absolute disgrace, and the umpires wouldn't hear the end of it. But because it's a big club like Collingwood, it'll just get swept under the rug and not spoken about. Just because it's North Melbourne, it doesn't mean that they don't deserve as much discussion as any other club, because they've been done wrong today. And number 9, the Tsunami is back. I got to catch glimpses last week of Hawthorn and GWS down in Tassie, and it just did not look like the GWS that we saw earlier on in the season. They were so hesitant on the ball, didn't want to pull the trigger, but against Port Adelaide tonight, they showed their best footy once again. It's that fast ball movement, the handball game, the team pressing as one, surging up the field. That is GWS's best. We got to see it again. Josh Kelly coming back into the side is absolutely massive. Him on the wing must just be such an important part structurally for them. And just the class that he has. Finished the game with a nice snapping goal. He'd probably be all-Australian if it wasn't for that injury. But the Giants will take some confidence from that they've rediscovered their brand and they can launch into the second half of the season. And that's going to wrap up 9 things we learned from round 14. Comment down below the 9 things or 6 things that you learned from this round. And make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the content and you're new to the channel. 10K is not far away. I appreciate you watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and we'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care. You plonkers.